Hello and welcome. This is a P2 economics video on oligopolies. Now, in the last video, well I thought it was the last video, we talked about monopolies in that video, obviously. This is slightly different to monopolies. The main way is different, as well, I'll give you a list of features and you can spot them yourself. But give a bit of a background. Oligopoly even. There's a few dominant firms, generally 3 to 5 dominant firms in the market, but there are other smaller firms. So the key difference is not only is there more than one dominant firm in the market, there's also a lot of smaller firms in the market of an oligopoly. Now there are a few more bits and bobs that separate them, but that's quite a key thing. There's technically two there, but whatever, can't bother. So anyway, let's kick off. So oligopolies. So what we're going to do in this video, so I should just give you a bit of a recap on this sheet. I'm just going to be discussing a few of the key features, mentioning what kind of price is set in an oligopoly, linking that into illegal and legal collusions, and I'll be discussing what is the difference and why there is illegal collusion, why it's illegal. I'll be giving you some examples of collusion that has been found out, and I'll be giving you a bit of background into where they're reported to and a merger with them. So let's kick off. So now we said there's let's give it away there. So there's generally 3 to 5 dominant firms in the market, but there are also smaller firms. Now, what does this tell you about the market firm concentration ratio? Actually, sorry, been introduced that, should have done. So anyway, I've already said it. Now, N firm market concentration ratio is the N number of firms added together as their market share, and that's the N firm concentration ratio. And as we mentioned a couple of videos ago, we don't include the others, but for this we're just concerned about the top 3 to 5. So if there's a top 3 to 5 dominant firms in the market, 3 to 5 firms that have a very big market share. And now there are many other smaller firms, yes, but 3 to 5 dominant firms. If there's 5, say there's 5 dominant firms, and the 5 market concentration ratio is the accumulation of the top 5 firms' market share, which is, as they're all quite large, it's going to be a large market concentration ratio. But then when we add in the 6th or 7th or 8th, or how many firms there are in the market, it doesn't start to, it doesn't really change, because the top 5 or the top 3, in comparison, whichever way you're looking at it, they have the top market concentration ratio because they have the biggest market share. So any above that, it's just going to be adding smaller percentages on each time. So anyway, that's how we relate it. So therefore, the 3 to 5 firm market concentration ratio market is going to be quite high. Now, okay, so that's a bit of background. Hopefully that makes some sense. It's not too difficult. Now we're going to talk about pricing now. Yeah, that's the best thing to do next. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you I'm going to explain it before I draw it. So let's imagine a price in the market. You can call it whatever you want for the good or service, because obviously it's representative of which market you're looking at it in. Now, if there's a few major firms, as oligopolies are the major market, type of market that you will see. It's the most common market. So you could be looking at the airline industry as an oligopoly, or there's a couple of other ones like the. Sorry, you've said the airline. Sorry. Yeah, so there's a lot of the fast food one. It's quite an oligopoly because you've got your four or five big ones, and then you've got your supermarket. You've got your four big Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Morrison's. So just a few examples there of your major oligopolies. Anyway, so how does this relate to the price? Now, we'll ignore the one for the supermarket for the moment because you've got the little ones coming away and it might confuse you a little bit. So, right, pricing. Okay, so if you've got 3 or 4 major firms in the market, now we need to establish that these firms are producing slightly differentiated products. So actually that's something we can add before we discuss it. So they're producing slightly differentiated products. Now the reason they're slightly differentiated, if we look at the airline industry, before we go on to pricing, there's no difference. It's generally the same plane. So the main difference is branding, which causes a slightly differentiated product because they associate a brand with a particular image, and obviously that you could tell the difference between British Airways and Virgin, obviously. Now, going back to my original point of pricing. So if British Airways decided, right, okay, so we know we're quite dominant. Actually, I think it's like 46% of the current market share is held by British Airways, I think. Yeah. So anyway, that was 2014 analysis. Anyway, so if you've got British Airways and you say British Airways say yes, we'll increase the price. I know they have a dominant market share in the market, but there's a few other major firms, so it is an oligopoly, so don't worry about that. If British Airways increase their price in the market, are these other firms, without any collusion, we're not going to look at collusion, we're just going to, because obviously you don't know about that yet, hopefully. So if British Airways increase their price of a ticket, are the others likely to follow? No. Why would they? Well, I mean, it's good. Yes, they could increase their profits, but then the profits of British Airways would be increased as well. Now, the act of increasing British Airways' price is the same as the competitors, so EasyJet and Virgin, lowering their price. I mean, obviously EasyJet's a low-cost airline, which we won't go into, but essentially, the British Airways increasing their price is the same as Virgin and EasyJet, for example, lowering their price because they're separating the price. So anyway, the point of this is that why would they follow suit? Because if they followed suit, then they wouldn't increase their customer numbers. They wouldn't be making any more profit than your British Airways, and they want to profit maximisers. Well, some of them anyway. So sorry, best way to phrase this. So anyway, so if they increase their price, they're not going to follow suit because the firms in a market of oligopoly are what we call interdependent. Now, interdependent means a firm preempts what the other firm is going to do. So if British Airways thought, we'll increase our price, but hang on a minute, we're in a market of oligopoly. We need to expect what are these competitors going to do. Are they going to follow our price? No. Why would they? Because if they increase our price, then the other competitors, EasyJet, Virgin, if they carry on their price, it's like they've lowered their price in comparison. So basically they've got a lower price, so they'll just get their customers, British Airways customers, because British Airways saying, we don't want you if we increase price, they're going to reduce demand. It's obviously law of demand, basic F581 stuff. So if they increase their price, then British and Virgin Atlantic and EasyJet keep their price, and the customers from British Airways isn't really that brand loyal if the price is that different. They're going to switch to EasyJet and Virgin. Obviously some of them are going to stay, but there's quite a few that are going to switch over to Virgin Atlantic and EasyJet. So they're not going to do that. Wouldn't be viable. Why would they do that? Because basically they're just going to be losing their total revenue. Okay, so this tells us, by assuming that, they tried to say without giving it away, the first part of the demand curve is going to be elastic, because basically if they increase their price between what it's currently at, so actually, yeah, so if we draw some axes, so we just said then, if the firms increase their price, then they would lose quite a lot of custom for a small increase in price. Hopefully I explained that. If I didn't, I'm sorry, that's what it is. So the first part of this demand curve, should I do it in a different colour? So the curve. So this first part of the demand curve is going to be, oh great, it's quite hard when you, it's going to be quite elastic. And that's because any small increase in price, and this is not going for a decrease here, any small increase in price is going to cause, sorry, really bad itch. Any increase, I've been bitten recently. Yeah, it's not a lullaby, don't worry. So anyway, any increase in price is going to cause a massive reduction in demand. So it's generally elastic. So we can say it is elastic up to the point of the price level, or above the price level is very elastic. See, this isn't going very well, this drawing. There we go. So we've got price level P. If we increase our price above that, it's going to be very elastic. So we could say the PAD above the price is greater than 1, or less than -1, whichever way you want to put it on its head. Now, if they were to reduce their price, then what would the other firms do? Now, as we said, if the firm is going to increase their price, then we'd lose a lot of demand. And that is the same as saying if the other firms reduce their price. Sorry, really bad itch. So, if they reduce their price, then it would be the same as the other firms increasing their price. And as we said, for the increase in price, they're going to lose a lot of demand if they increase their price. So if one firm decreases its price and the other firms remain the same price, it's the same as this firm increasing their price, because there's still a difference between the prices of the firms. So if they reduce their price, to stop the original set of businesses losing demand, they need to reduce their price as well to remain competitive in the market. So if they basically if one firm reduces their price, they expect, logically, the other firms to also reduce their prices as well. Now if they reduce their prices and the other firms are reducing their prices, the demand isn't going to change by that much. So after the price level, it becomes very inelastic. So we suddenly get this. Oh, that was bad. We suddenly get this. I was trying to. I don't know, it's not me trumping. That's just the board thing, obviously. Then we get a curve which is the opposite, which is inelastic. So it's less than +1 or greater than -1, whichever way you want to look at it. So what we said here is we've got some kind of curve that sort of has two parts to it, and I've done them in different colours there. So I've done the elastic bit in green, because if we increase the price, then why would they be paying the higher price when they can go to other places at lower prices, and then below the price of the market in an oligopoly, it becomes very inelastic, because if it's the same as them increasing their price, it's the opposite of above the price level, really. So hopefully I don't think I explained that particularly well. So anyway, that's the main part of the pricing there. Now what we said, okay, so hopefully that you've understood that. Now if we look at this, sorry, just getting out of the way a second. So if we look at this, right, what's this price? So what is this price? If it's very low, it's not going to be good for the firms, is it? Because if we say, oh well, this price is really low, the firms can't increase that price, or if this price doesn't satisfy the firms, obviously they're going to want to leave the market, and there's no point in them entering it. But if it's too low for the firms, then what they might do, which is highly illegal, is say, right, we're the main players in this market, because if they reduce their price, they're all going to be competing on price, which is great for the consumer, because we all get it pretty much cheaper than they can make it for. So we're getting it for free in terms of we're not getting it for free, but we're having it at a reduced price, which benefits us, obviously, the consumer rather than the producer. But any price war is absolutely has a detrimental effect for the firms because they lose profit, and all the firms, well, most of them, are profit maximisers. So why would they want to reduce their price? If anything, they want this P to be as high as they possibly can, because then all the firms have a greater profit margin. Surely that should work out. Obviously, this means if the price is, by the way, if the price is going to be the same, the only thing they can compete on is quality, customer service, which I didn't put down because it's generally quite obvious, because it's slightly differentiated product with branding, so the quality has to be might be slightly different to attract other customers, etc. So anyway, back to my point of the price. Now they want the price to be as high as they possibly can, the most profit, so they can sit on the derriere and play Call of Duty, which I hate, by the way. Because, you know, teenagers these days. Never mind. So anyway, they want this P to be as high as they possibly can. Now, one way for them to do this is where I was sort of stopped myself. I interrupted myself there. So one way of increasing this price is to say to the other people in this, the other main players in this market of oligopolies, say, right, well, I've got an idea. Why don't we all just charge high prices? Because, you know, we're not going to lose demand if we all charge at high prices, because it's not the same as the situation here. If one firm raises price, then all the other firms are producing at this lower price, they can just switch to this other firm. If they're all having this high price, it's the same as having this diagram, but just sort of shifted up a bit with a higher level of P, which is great for the firms, but horrible for the consumers, because we no longer have this other opportunity of going to the other firms that have slightly differentiated products in terms of branding, but products generally quite similar. Because we no longer have that of having an option of a lower price. So it wouldn't be a good idea for the consumer, but as we said, it's great for the producer or the industry or the supplier, so, you know, the firms. So anyway, that is called a cartel. Now the first thing, if you Google cartel, what comes up with drug cartels. I wouldn't mention that in your economic exam. Wouldn't look too good. As much as I'd advocate that, obviously. So anyway, what we're saying here is this is highly illegal because it rips off the consumer. Because, you know, the firms are saying, stuff you, consumer. We don't like you, we're going to rip you off. Because we're all going to rip you off at the same time, so you've got no option at all. But then, hang on, Mr. Old, what they used to be called is the Office of Fair Trade steps in, although, anyway, for the purpose of, we're going to call them that, they're not called that anymore, but we'll go into that in a minute. So the purpose of the Office of Fair Trade Office for Fair Trading, steps in and goes, no, you're ripping off the consumer there. Stuff you, we're going to remove that power from you. Well, they don't essentially remove it, they fine companies 10% of each year of the turnover that they can prove that the company was in cartel, because obviously not all the cash is going to be attributed to being in this extra profit, and so they take 10% of the overall annual turnover, so it might be less, it might be more, but that's about the average she'll take. So anyway, that's obviously it's illegal, and that's what they take. Now, one thing I would stress, if you're a whistleblower, so if you're in this cartel but you say, this doesn't feel right, I want to get out of this, and you go to the Office for Fair Trading and say, look, there's a cartel going on here, I've been involved in this, and there's a few other people, you know that kid at school that always used to grass you up, that was me. So anyway, you get let off. You say, oh, well done, pat on the back for you for bringing this up, because, you know, it's quite good. Even though you've been a part of it, we don't mind. So anyway, these so you do mind, but it's good you brought it forward. So the other firms get fined, and the whistleblower gets let off. So obviously a bit of an incentive. If you won't do it, if you only got fined half, which you'd still wouldn't do it, you still end up getting fined. So anyway, that's a bit of an incentive to bring it forward. Now, recently in November 2010, there was 11 airlines that got fined a total of $600 £90 million for including on the fuel surcharge for cargo. So it's not passenger, fuel surcharge for cargo. So loads, they were lugging about the place. So anyway, that's quite a key thing. But Lufthansa, so that obviously your main ones that were involved in that were British Airways, Air France and KLM, which KLM and Air France have since colluded. Sorry, not colluded, it merged, sorry. Anyway, so that's what, that's an example there. Now, the Office for Fair Trading, I did mention before, that's no longer called that. That's because the Office for Fair Trading and the Corporation Commission merged to become the sorry, I'm sick. I'll bring you up later. So they merged the Office for Office for Fair Trading and the oh my god, that is so bad. Anyway, I'll bring it up in a second. So one second, I'll just go and double check that for you. Sorry about that, I just got my names mixed up. So anyway, as we said, in 2013, the Office for Fair Trading, merged with the Corporate Commission to become the CMA, the Corporate Markets Competition Markets Authority. And then I did mention about the £690 million fine for the 11 airlines. That was over a 7-year period between 1999 and 2006. As we said, they were price fixing on a fixed fuel on a fuel storage. You know, for the storage, fixed fuel charge extra for storage, like the carriers around the world. That's not really specific, but as I said, it's just a few examples there. Now there are a few. There's not illegal all over the world. There's one called OPEC, which is legal. That is basically all the countries that produce the oil. So United Arab Emirates, them kind of countries. They have a fixed amount of oil they can produce and a fixed price, and obviously this is in the interest of the countries, so basically they get max profit from it. That's why you all see them driving around in Lamborghinis. So anyway, that's an example of that's the same thing. So we said that was the cartels, and these are sort of, you can imagine them to be price fixers. So they set a price to increase profits. So basically it is a collusion. So that's a summary of what I was trying to explain to you. There's also some forms of collusion which is, so this is informal as well. No, formal? Oh my god, I'm so sorry about this. It's been a long day. So there's formal, that's formal because they've agreed, there's been some agreement that they've all sat down together and said, look, this is what we're all going to charge. Now there's another one that's the opposite, which is informal. If that's the right way around. Yeah, so basically there's no agreement between prices, but the prices increase, and the sort of the high fixed prices, the fixed. So it's quite similar, but they occur naturally. There's quite similar between these two. Just in this one, there is no agreement, no written formal agreement. Of that one, that's called obviously your tactical collusion. Yeah, so as we said, there's no this generally occurs because you have something called price leadership. So your price leadership is essentially where your smallest firm copies your largest firm in terms of its prices. So your smallest firm, your new firm entering the market, will copy the exact same price as the firm at the top, the most dominant, the largest firm in the market. Now this is different from your business studies knowledge of price takers and makers. Now you in that concept in business, so this is just explaining the difference here. In business, that firm would never charge higher than the firm, the most dominant firm in that market. Whereas in this case, in economics, for the price leadership, that's where the smallest firm, not only it still doesn't charge higher than the firm on top, but it charges the exact same as the firm, the most dominant firm. So that's what price leadership is, and as they all start to do this, because you wouldn't want to charge less than the firm below you that's less dominant, you just wouldn't do that. So anyway, that's why. So yeah, so then they all become, once the lowest firm does this, then they all sort of follow suit, and we arrive at this situation where there's a price fixed by market forces essentially. So that's essentially what it is. Hopefully that's been quite self-explanatory. There's not too much to this. There's one more thing actually we need to talk about, and that's called performance evaluation. So basically, we're saying, is an oligopoly, is it efficient in terms of, is it allocatively efficient? Is it got any deadweight welfare loss? Well, we don't know if it's allocatively efficient because obviously we don't know the consumers' preferences, their tastes, as that's what we know to allocatively efficient to be. So unless we're told that, we can't make an assumption on that one. So yeah, hopefully. However, there is no. So there's no deadweight loss from a normal oligopoly. There's no deadweight loss in that situation. But when we start bringing in these collusions, in terms of your cartels, such as OPEC, then it does remove deadweight welfare loss from the consumer, because obviously the consumer surplus is the difference between what the consumer is willing to pay and what they actually pay market price. Now if they increase the market price, then the difference between what they want to pay and what they currently pay, the market price, is going to be a lot smaller. So they're taking that consumer surplus away, and which we looked at in the monopoly markets. The collusion monopoly is quite similar. Collusion oligopoly is quite similar to the monopoly, because they both have a set of large dominant firms. In the case of Pure, it's one, but you can think of it as they're acting as one big firm charging a constant high price. Obviously, you wouldn't fix it at a low price; that would be stupid. However, with these collusions, one more thing before we go. With these collusions, there's a huge incentive, a massive incentive to cheat. So, right, if the, such as the OPEC, there's been, obviously this happened a number of times in the OPEC, if these countries say, right, we're all going to charge this price, none of you cheat. Now, it's like when you're into a mock exam, or in your case of high school, don't look at the, in case of high school, don't look at your answers for the vocab test in French. And, you know, they're just, there was the incentive to look and cheat. Just the same incentive applies in these situations in terms of the collusions, because there's nothing to stop these firms saying, yeah, on the day, yeah, we'll agree to that price, don't you worry about that, so you just all increase your prices and we'll do exactly the same, and then go back to their own country, charge a lower price. And the benefits to that firm, because obviously the consumer is unaware of this collusion, they will just say a firm has got lower prices, and the rest of the entire set of firms have the same high constant price, and they're going to go with this other firm that's got the lower price, so they're going to receive the biggest benefit. And obviously it starts to fall apart when all these other firms get on this bandwagon of charging the lower price, which initiates price war, which is what this whole collusion thing is trying to avoid. So that's been a lot of me talking about that, but hopefully, as I said, I think talking about it is probably a lot easier than writing it down on the board, and they're the main bits of information that you need to know. That's something called the kink demand curve, by the way. There is just going to put this on. Now, when you look at, so as I said, if you understand that diagram, that's fine. What I'm going to draw now is just a little bit extra on that diagram. You don't need to know it, it's quite irrelevant really, to be honest. So anyway, we've got this price here. If we draw a line down from this price, dotted line, same sort of thing, you get to Q. And obviously you could draw different prices on to represent what would happen to revenue at each stage. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to draw our marginal revenue curve on. Now this is the demand curve, and as I said, as I quite like Monopolies, it's the marginal revenue curve is going to do something like this. Oh, right, that's not going well. Well, obviously you could do that, but it's not going to prove my point. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw this diagonally down so it hits the line up from Q. And if we draw this dotted line up from the price, that's the price set, we're going to have some discontinued curve, discontinued marginal revenue curve. So this coming down here and then going down this line, that's Q. We're going to have it's a discontinued curve because these two are essentially two demand curves that we've stitched together. There's an elastic demand curve and an inelastic demand curve that we've stuck together. So we've got this discontinued marginal revenue curve that's been shoved on there. Now we could put, you could go back and say, right, well, we'll put our average total cost curve, and it's going to go something like that. But you don't need to know that. That's just a bit of information for you. That's just relating sort of to the short-run costs, and you're putting it in terms of an equilibrium, because obviously this is your demand, which equals your average revenue curve. Sorry, I should have put that on there. So that's sort of your equilibrium. If you were going to have an equilibrium, that's what it would look like. As I said, I didn't really explain that quite well, so we're just going to recap the thing. Now, so what we said was an oligopoly is a market that has 3 to 5 firms, as you can see at the top left of the board. And obviously, therefore, there's a lot of other firms as well, by the way, in this market, but they're very small, they're negligible in terms of 3 to 5 market firms, main firms, sorry. And this has a very high 3 to 5 N firm market concentration, so 3 to 5 firm market concentration ratio, depending on what's the top. Top 3, is it top 3 or 5 or 4? Any more than that, and it won't be an oligopoly. So we're not just picking their numbers out of thin air. You have a duopoly as well, which is 2 firms, but it's more monopoly than this. So anyway, that was just a bit of extra information I forgot to put in the video. Then we talked about the prices, why they all take the same price. And that's because if they increase the price, then because they are interdependent, which means they have perceived what the other firms will do. If they increase their price, the other firms are going to keep their price, and they're not going to follow suit because, why would they? They're just going to lose. They're going to be increased in their price. Saying to Chris profit, but they would get a large profit if they kept their same price. However, if they if this other firm reduced their price, then the other firms would have to follow suit to stop, because it's like the opposite way you're thinking of when one firm increases its price. If one firm decreases its price, it's the same as the other firms increasing their price, which we said had a detrimental effect because they would be losing out on customers switching to the other firm. So therefore, as it's the opposite way around, it's not elastic as it was on the top of the curve, it's inelastic. That's the way I think about it. But it says in my book, probably best to think of it that way. Anyway, so yeah, it's just to do with interdependence, what that curve's really showing. And then we talked about the 2 collusions. We talked about cartels, and then we talked about tactical collusions or informal collusions. Now the formal collusions, the cartels, they have a written document, calls, texts, emails, text, we are going to collude the market, lol. So anyway, they can track that, the government's not thick. It's probably watching me do this video right now, so anyway, that's not freaked you out. I just put my level of weirdness, at a lower level. So anyway, as we said, there's 2 types of collusions. You've got cartels, which are your formal agreement said, yes, we're all going to charge this price. And then your informal one, which is just because the market occurs that way anyway, in terms of the price leadership, because the smallest firm charges the same price as the top firm, and then the other firms follow suit. So that's sort of like an unwritten law of, you know, if they could find that, they would, but there's no real way to do that, because they're not writing anything down, they're not doing anything formally. It's all informal. It's just the way the market works. So that you can't penalise the market the way the market works. So anyway, yeah, that's essentially what has happened. And if you don't forget, there was examples of the the cartel collusion, where you had the 11 firms that were penalised way back in 2010 for 7 years between 1996 and 2006. 1999 and 2006 for £690 million for fixing prices on air cargo, so fuel on air cargo. So it's like air passenger duty, but for air cargo essentially, if you think of it that way. Just not on the passenger, it's on the stuff that's hauling around. Yeah, so that's what the main things is. Now, as we said, as you can see on the board there, it's slightly differentiated products, but the only difference is branding. So, as they're all charging the same price, you have to work on branding or quality. But that's just a summation, really, of everything in oligopolies. So hopefully that's been sort of helpful, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Sorry, it's been a bit confusing, but I've tried to sum it up at the end there. Sorry, just one more thing actually. Oligopolists, when I did mention they wouldn't change their price because they would lose total revenue, they might increase their price because of collusion. Now, there's just one thing I did forgot to mention that kind of contradicts the point that I actually made about they wouldn't change their price because they would lose total revenue. Some oligopolists don't have the option, don't have the have a goal of actually sales growth, and they do this by reducing their prices. But obviously the same law still applies. If we reduce our prices in terms of an oligopolist, it is inelastic, and all other firms follow suit, so you just end up reducing your total revenue, which is exactly the same, but maybe their goal isn't that. Maybe their goal is sales growth, which even if we lose total revenue, we're still moving along the demand curve, which will still increase in our quantity demanded, so they're still increasing the sales growth, hence achieving their goal. So that's just one more thing that I just forgot to add on to that video. So hopefully that made sense, and assuming there won't be another little side video to this, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.